A lot of owners assume it is a marketing gimmick designed to make maintenance costs look lower than they really are. It is not. That interval is engineered specifically around full synthetic oil, and it only works if it is never skipped or pushed past what the car calculates. One long-term BMW 3 Series owner documented over 135,000 miles of ownership with oil changes performed exactly when the car system called for it, and reported no measurable oil consumption problems across that entire span. That is not luck, that is the system working exactly as designed because it was never interrupted. Now look at the failure points that generate the most fear among BMW owners, because the data shows these are not random events. They are documented, quantifiable patterns with known timelines. On N54-powered engines, the high-pressure fuel pump has a documented failure rate of around 35%, a rate so well established that BMW extended the factory warranty on that specific part to 10 years or 120,000 miles. Owners who catch the early symptoms, a long crank before the engine starts, or hesitation under throttle, and get the part addressed early, spend a fraction of what owners who ignore those symptoms eventually spend once the failure cascades into a stall or a no-start condition. The N20 engine tells a similar story with a different component. It uses plastic timing chain guides, including a smaller chain that specifically drives the oil pump. If that guide cracks, oil pressure can disappear within seconds, and continuing to drive for even 30 to 60 seconds without oil pressure causes catastrophic internal engine damage, according to documented repair analysis of that platform. The warning sign is consistent across every reported case, a rattling noise on a cold start. Owners who treat that rattle as an emergency and stop driving immediately protect the engine. Owners who assume it will go away once the car warms up are the ones who end up needing a full replacement instead of a guide and chain repair. The electric water pump on these same turbocharged engines follows a documented service interval of 60 to 80,000 miles, which makes it closer to a timing belt than to a random failure. Long-lasting BMWs treat this the same way they treat an oil change, as a scheduled expense that happens on a calendar, not as something you wait to replace until it fails and leaves you stranded with an overheating engine on the side of the road. Carbon buildup is another piece of this pattern that rarely gets attention until it becomes a performance problem. Every modern BMW uses direct injection, which means fuel is sprayed directly into the cylinder and never washes over the intake valves the way it did on older, port-injected engines. Without that natural cleaning action, carbon deposits build up slowly from oil vapor alone, and most direct injection BMWs benefit from a first cleaning service, commonly called walnut blasting, somewhere between 80,000 and 120,000 kilometers, and then roughly every 60 to 80,000 kilometers after that. Owners who commute in stop-and-go traffic need this service more often than highway drivers, because short trips never let the engine reach the temperature needed to burn off any deposits naturally. Skip this service for long enough, and the engine loses power so gradually that most owners never even connect the dip in performance back to its actual cause. Brake fluid follows the same underlying logic, even though it has nothing to do with the engine. It absorbs moisture over time, even inside a sealed system, and that moisture lowers the fluid's boiling point. Manufacturer guidance calls for a full replacement roughly every 2 years regardless of how many miles are on the odometer, because the clock matters here just as much as the mileage does. Now compare all of this discipline against the industry average, because the contrast is exactly why this pattern qualifies as a secret in the first place. Independent reliability data puts the average BMW owner at around $968 a year in repair costs, compared to a $652 industry average, with roughly a 15% chance in any given year of a repair severe enough to cost 3 times that average figure. That 15% number sounds alarming in isolation, but severe repairs are almost never random. They are almost always the compounded result of a smaller, cheaper problem that went unaddressed for months, sometimes years, until it took a bigger, more expensive component down with it. A neglected water pump overheats an engine. An ignored HPFP symptom turns into a stranded car and a tow bill. A rattling cold start ignored for a single road trip turns a $600 guide repair into a full engine replacement. There is one more factor that almost never comes up in maintenance conversations because it has nothing to do with the engine at all, and that is rust. Documented case studies on high-mileage E39 models specifically point to underbody corrosion, not engine failure, as the primary reason these cars get retired. A mechanically perfect engine sitting inside a rusted-through chassis still ends up in a junkyard. The owners behind the most extreme documented mileage cases treated undercarriage care with the same seriousness as an oil change, because a car that has been kept out of heavy road salt environments or given regular undercoating attention is disproportionately represented in the high mileage record compared to cars that were mechanically sound but structurally neglected. So here is the actual secret, laid out plainly, because it turns out to not be much of a secret at all once you see the pattern across every documented case. It is not a specific part, a specific engine code, or a specific generation. It is an unbroken maintenance record, sustained over years, sometimes decades, where every calculated interval was honored on time, every early warning symptom was treated as urgent instead of optional, and every scheduled wear item, from a water pump to a set of brake pads, was replaced on a calendar instead of after a failure. That is the entire pattern, and it repeats itself across every long-term ownership record that exists, from a 500,000-mile E46 to a 584,000-mile E39. None of it requires luck. All of it requires consistency, applied for longer than most owners are willing to commit to. The engines that last twice as long were never protected by anything mysterious. They were protected by an owner who simply never stopped paying attention.